Welcome to the Telemetry podcast, where we explore how to build cybersecurity in IoT ecosystems through trustworthy tools and methodologies. Join us as we uncover the innovations and expertise driving the development of secure and reliable IoT devices and systems across diverse sectors, from ICT and telecoms to aviation, manufacturing, and beyond.
All right, ready to dive in today. We're tackling the Internet of Things.
Sounds interesting, but just so we're on the same page, we're not talking about, like, smart refrigerators, are we?
Actually, yeah. We are going there, but it goes way beyond that.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're talking about the whole world of cybersecurity in the Internet of Things. Everything from those smart toasters to the industrial robots that are assembling our cars.
Wow, that's a pretty broad spectrum. Where do we even begin?
Well, there's this new EU project called TELEMETRY.
Telemetry, okay.
And they put out this really fascinating research paper that we're going to deep dive into today about all the challenges of securing this, rapidly expanding world of the IoT.
Yeah, it's not just individual devices anymore, right? It's like this whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating about this paper. They really emphasize that concept of the IoT ecosystem.
Because, like, it's not enough to just secure your smart refrigerator in isolation. You have to think about how it's connected to everything else.
It's like you can have the most secure front door in the world, but if you leave a window open...
Exactly. And that's where threat propagation comes in.
Oh, I like that. Threat propagation.
Yeah, the paper actually uses the analogy of a chain, right? You're only as strong as the weakest link.
Right, so one weak link in that chain can compromise the entire system.
And suddenly, that seemingly insignificant vulnerability in your, internet-connected coffee maker.
Right, because who would even bother to hack my coffee maker?
Exactly, but that could be the entry point for something much larger.
Oh, that is a little unsettling.
And that's where this project, Telemetry, they're developing a tool called Spider Risk.
Spider Risk, okay.
Yeah, and it's designed to help visualize these interconnected risks.
So like a risk map for my smart home.
Exactly. Imagine a map of your city, but instead of streets, you're seeing all the connections between different IoT devices.
And the potential vulnerabilities.
And those vulnerabilities, it helps you pinpoint those weak links before they can be exploited.
Okay, now that's some seriously next-level security thinking.
It's about getting ahead of the game.
Speaking of getting ahead of the game, there was something that really caught my eye in this paper, and I'm curious to get your take on it. They talk about black box devices.
Black box devices, okay?
This is something I've always found a little unnerving. The idea that we have these devices in our homes, and we don't even know how they work.
Yeah, it's like we're trusting them blindly.
Exactly. And if you don't know how something works, how can you be sure it's secure?
It's a huge challenge. You're trying to secure something that you don't fully understand.
So how do you even approach that?
Well, the paper talks about this dual approach of black box and white box monitoring.
Black box and white box, okay.
So black box monitoring, it's like trying to understand what's going on inside a sealed room.
By looking for clues from the outside.
Exactly. You're monitoring the device's external behavior, looking for any anomalies.
Like if it suddenly starts sending out a ton of data at 3 a.m.?
Exactly. That could be a sign that something's not right.
So if black box is about observing from the outside, then white box is about getting under the hood, right?
Precisely. And this is where SBOMs come in.
SBOMs.
Yeah, it stands for Software Bill of Materials.
So like an ingredient list for the device's software.
Exactly. It tells you what software components are being used, which versions, and any known vulnerabilities.
So you're not just guessing what's inside the black box anymore. You're actually getting a peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. And that transparency is crucial for identifying potential weaknesses.
That makes a lot of sense. But securing individual devices is one thing, but the IoT is so dynamic.
Oh, absolutely.
Devices are constantly connecting and disconnecting. New software updates are being pushed out all the time. How do you secure something that's in constant flux?
It's a huge challenge, and you've hit on another major focus of this paper, secure updates.
Because it's not enough to just send out the updates. You have to make sure they're installed securely.
And that they don't break something else in the process, especially with these resource-limited IoT devices.
Right, because you can't exactly install the latest security software on a device that has the processing power of a potato.
Exactly. So the paper talks about the need for lightweight cryptography.
Lightweight cryptography. Okay, so like security that's strong, but also nimble enough for these, less powerful devices.
Exactly. Because a security update that cripples your device isn't very helpful.
No, it's definitely not. I can't help but think about all the data these devices are generating.
It's an overwhelming amount.
Like, how do we even begin to make sense of it all, let alone identify real threats in that sea of information?
It's a huge challenge, and that's where the concept of federated learning comes into play.
Okay, federated learning. Tell me more.
So imagine a network of security cameras, each one capable of learning to spot suspicious activity on its own.
Without sending all that data back to some central server.
Exactly. So each device becomes its own little security guard, analyzing data locally.
And that helps protect privacy too, right? Because not all that sensitive data is being transmitted.
Exactly. It addresses both privacy and efficiency concerns.
That's fascinating. So we're talking about devices that are not only secure, but also smart enough to learn and adapt on their own.
That's the goal.
But even with all this talk about smart devices and advanced security measures, we can't forget about the human element in all of this, right?
Oh, absolutely not. The human factor is often the weakest link.
Because even if you have the most secure system in the world, all it takes is one person clicking on a phishing link.
Exactly. So we need to think about security not just in terms of technology, but also in terms of human behavior.
So how do we do that? How do we account for that unpredictable human element?
Well, the paper talks about using machine learning to establish baseline behavioral patterns.
They find behavioral patterns. Okay.
So for both devices and users, it's about teaching systems to recognize what's normal so they can flag anything that deviates from that norm.
So like if my smart coffee maker suddenly starts trying to access my bank account.
Exactly. That would raise a red flag.
Red flag city. That is both fascinating and a little creepy.
And it gets even more interesting. They suggest that techniques similar to those used in social engineering,
Wait, like the tactics hackers use?
but used ethically, of course, to understand how users might interact with these devices and anticipate potential vulnerabilities,
So it's like we can use the same playbook as the bad guys
to make our systems more resilient.
to stay one step ahead.
That.
That's pretty mind-blowing. We've got these tools like SpideRisk for mapping out threats, this concept of black box and white box monitoring, the potential of federated learning, and even using insights from social engineering to improve security.
And that's really just scratching the surface of what this paper covers.
There's so much to
And
unpack.
that's a very comprehensive look at the challenges and opportunities of IoT security.
But the key takeaway here is that it's not just about securing individual devices, it's about securing the entire ecosystem.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
And it's an ongoing process, right? There's no finish line in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. It's a constant evolution.
We're going to have to leave it there for now, but join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll be exploring even more fascinating insights from the telemetry project.
I'm ready when you are. And one of the biggest takeaways from this telemetry project is that nobody can tackle this alone.
What, like securing the IoT is a team sport?
Exactly. It's not something that any one company or government can solve on their own.
So are we talking like a global cybersecurity task force? Like the A-team, but for the IoT?
Think even bigger. We're talking about everyone having a role to play.
Okay, so who's on this dream team?
Well, you've got your device manufacturers, obviously.
Right, got to start at the source.
Then you've got the software developers, the security researchers, policymakers.
This is a pretty big table we're gathering around.
And we can't forget about the users, because at the end of the day, it's about educating everyone on how to navigate this interconnected world safely.
So it's kind of like a giant cybersecurity potluck. Everyone brings something unique to the table.
I like that. And one of the things that this paper really emphasizes is the need for open sharing of information.
Okay, so transparency is key here.
Think about it. Cyber criminals, they're already sharing their tactics, right? They're collaborating online, sharing vulnerabilities.
So the good guys need to step up their game.
Exactly. We need to be just as quick, if not quicker, at sharing information about threats, vulnerabilities, best practices.
Okay, I get it. Knowledge is power. But realistically, how do we get everyone to play nice and share their secrets? Especially in the tech world, it seems like everyone's trying to guard their intellectual property.
Well, this is where things get really interesting. The paper talks about using something called distributed ledger technology.
Wait a minute, is that like blockchain?
Exactly, the same technology that underpins cryptocurrencies.
Okay, now my brain is trying to keep up. So we're talking about using blockchain to secure the IoT.
In a way, yes. But instead of tracking Bitcoin transactions, we're talking about creating a secure and transparent way to share cybersecurity information.
So like a digital vault where everyone has the key, but no one can tamper with the information inside.
Exactly. And because it's decentralized, there's no single point of failure. Even if one organization gets hacked, the information is still safe.
Okay, that's pretty clever. But what kind of information are we talking about sharing here? Give me some examples.
Well, think about vulnerability reports. Instead of companies keeping those under wraps, they could be shared instantly with the entire network.
So like a real-time threat intelligence feed for the IoT.
Exactly. And we could share best practices, testing results, all sorts of valuable information.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not just about securing the technology, it's about building trust and transparency within the ecosystem itself.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, security is a shared responsibility.
And that responsibility extends to the users too, right? We can't just rely on technology to keep us safe.
Absolutely. And that's something this paper addresses as well. We need to educate users about the risks and empower them to make smart decisions.
Because knowledge is power, or at least it makes you a less appealing target.
Exactly. The more we know, the better we can protect ourselves and the devices we rely on.
So we've talked about this global cybersecurity dream team, using blockchain for transparency, empowering users. It's a lot to process. But it seems like the overarching theme here is collaboration.
Collaboration is essential. We're not going to solve these challenges by working in silos.
So breaking down those walls, building trust, and working together. But this paper doesn't just stop at the theoretical, does it? It gets into some pretty specific challenges and solutions.
Oh, absolutely. It gets very granular in its recommendations.
And one of the things that really stood out to me was the focus on securing APIs.
Right, because APIs are everywhere in the IoT.
I'll be honest, I always hear that acronym thrown around, API this, API that. I know it's something about how different apps talk to each other, but why are APIs such a big deal for IoT security?
Think of it this way. Each API is like a door connecting different parts of your digital world.
Okay, so like if you leave that door unlocked, anyone could potentially get in.
And if someone compromises an API, they could gain access to a whole network of devices and data.
Okay, that's not good. So how do we lock down those doors? How do we secure these APIs?
Well, the paper talks about developing a specialized security analyzer for APIs, something that can scan for vulnerabilities and flag them before they're exploited.
So like a digital watchdog that's constantly sniffing out weaknesses in those API connections.
Precisely. It's about proactively identifying and mitigating risks.
That makes a lot of sense. But we also need to secure the devices themselves, right?
Mm.
Because what good is a secure door if the walls are made of paper?
Exactly. And that's where IoT device fuzzing comes in.
Okay, I'm picturing a bunch of engineers throwing cotton balls at a smart speaker.
Not quite. Imagine bombarding a device with random inputs, just a barrage of data, to see how it reacts.
So it's like stress testing a bridge, but for your IoT devices.
Exactly. You're pushing the device to its limits to uncover any hidden vulnerabilities.
Because sometimes those vulnerabilities only reveal themselves when the device is under pressure.
Precisely. And once you know where the weaknesses are, you can patch them up before someone with malicious intent exploits them.
Makes sense. But with so many different types of IoT devices out there, I imagine this fuzzing process can get pretty complex.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You need specialized tools and techniques for different types of devices and communication protocols.
Right, because fuzzing a smart light bulb is going to be a lot different than fuzzing a connected car.
Exactly. And as the IoT landscape continues to evolve, so too will our fuzzing methods.
It's a constant arms race, isn't it? The good guys versus the bad guys, each trying to outsmart the other.
It's a game of cat and mouse, but with much higher stakes.
No kidding. So we've got to secure the APIs, we've got to stress test those devices, but there's another layer to this whole thing, isn't there? Access control.
Absolutely. We can't forget about access control.
Because even if you've got the most secure devices and APIs in the world, if anyone can just waltz right in.
Exactly. You need to control who has access to what.
So it's like a digital bouncer at the door of your smart home, checking IDs and making sure no one's sneaking in where they shouldn't be.
Exactly. But in the world of the IoT, that bouncer has a much tougher job.
How so?
Well, for one thing, it's not just people trying to get in. We're talking about a whole ecosystem of devices, each with its own level of access.
Right, because my smart refrigerator doesn't need to access my bank account.
And those access permissions might need to change dynamically depending on the context.
Okay, I can see how that could get complicated quickly.
And that's why the paper suggests a multi-layered approach to access control.
Multi-layered, okay, like a security onion. So what are those layers?
Well, you've got your traditional methods like role-based access control or RBAC.
RBAC, got it.
But they also talk about the importance of attribute-based access control, or ABAC.
Okay, lots of acronyms. Break that down for me. What's the difference between those two?
So imagine you're at a company, right? RBAC is like saying, okay, you're in marketing, so you get access to these files. But ABAC is much more granular.
Regular.
It's like saying, okay, you're in marketing, so you can access these files, but only during business hours and only from your work computer and only if you've logged in using two-factor authentication.
Okay, so it's like putting those extra security measures in place just to be extra safe.
Exactly. It's about creating a much more fine-grained and dynamic approach to authorization.
So instead of just saying you're in or you're out, it's like, okay, you're in, but only under these very specific conditions.
Precisely. And that level of control is essential in the world of the IoT.
It sounds incredibly intricate, but it seems like it's necessary given the complexities we're dealing with. But before we get too lost in the weeds of access control, there was one final concept in the paper that really caught my attention. This idea of creating a digital twin of your entire IoT environment.
Ah, yes. The digital twin, or as I like to call it, the cybersecurity sandbox.
Okay, the cybersecurity sandbox. So instead of testing out new security measures on your actual network, which could have disastrous consequences if something goes wrong,
You create a virtual replica.
a safe space where you can experiment and break things without any real-world consequences.
Exactly. It's like a flight simulator for cybersecurity professionals.
You can run all sorts of simulations, test out different attack scenarios.
See how your defenses hold up against the latest threats.
And because it's all virtual, there's no risk of causing any real damage.
Exactly. It's a controlled environment where you can experiment and learn without any fear of repercussions.
That is pretty ingenious. But I imagine building one of these digital twins is no easy feat.
Oh, it definitely requires a deep understanding of your IoT infrastructure. You need to map out all the devices, the connections, the data flows.
It's like creating a digital blueprint of your entire IoT ecosystem.
And just like in the real world, that blueprint needs to be constantly updated as your IoT environment evolves.
Because the IoT is not static, it's constantly changing and adapting.
Exactly. And your security measures need to keep pace.
It's a constant process of evolution and adaptation. It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're on the cusp of a technological revolution. It really is. And building those digital twins, testing things out, it all comes back to this idea of continuous improvement, which this paper talks about a lot. We can't just secure the IoT once and be done with it.
It's definitely not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Not at all. It's an ongoing process. You're constantly monitoring, testing, adapting.
So less like building a fortress and more like tending a garden. You're always having to prune, adjust, make sure everything's growing the way it should be.
I like that analogy because you can't just assume everything's fine. You need to be proactive.
So how do we shift our mindset from being reactive to proactive? Because it seems like right now, a lot of cybersecurity is about playing catch-up.
It's about building systems that are resilient from the ground up.
Resilient.
Not just trying to prevent every possible attack, but designing systems that can withstand those attacks, that can bounce back.
So it's less about building impenetrable walls and more about creating systems that can adapt and evolve as the threats themselves evolve.
Exactly. It's about creating a system that's flexible, adaptable, and always learning.
Like a digital immune system.
Exactly. Constantly learning and adapting to new threats as they emerge.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the need for collaboration, the importance of transparency, the challenges of securing APIs, the role of fuzzing, and even this idea of creating digital twins for testing. But there's one final concept from this paper that I want to touch on before we wrap things up.
And what's that?
Trust.
Ah, trust. That's the foundation of everything, isn't it?
Because without trust, the IoT simply doesn't work. If people don't feel like these devices are safe, secure, and reliable.
They're not going to use them.
Exactly. Or they'll find workarounds, which often makes things even less secure.
It's a self-defeating cycle.
So how do we build trust in the IoT? Because it seems like every day there's a new headline about a data breach or a security flaw.
It's a complex issue, but I think it starts with transparency. Companies need to be upfront about the data they're collecting, how they're using it, and the steps they're taking to protect it.
And it goes beyond just like privacy policies that nobody reads.
Yeah.
We need to make security understandable and accessible to everyone, not just the tech experts.
Exactly. We need to empower users to make informed decisions about the devices they bring into their homes and the data they share online,
Because at the end of the day, it's about building a culture of cybersecurity.
where everyone understands the importance of security and feels empowered to take control of their own digital lives.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the world of the IoT. It's something we should all be thinking about.
Absolutely. It's about building a more secure and trustworthy digital future for everyone.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to thank you, the listener, for joining us on this journey into the fascinating and ever-evolving world of IoT security.
It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about the technology that surrounds you, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the digital world safely and securely.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
The Telemetry project is funded by the European Union. The information and views shared in this podcast are those of the Telemetry Consortium only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union or the European Research Executive Agency. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them.